YouTube, what's going on today? We have another Advanced MX5 track guide for you. It's 2021, Season 2, Week 5. We're at Rock Park Grand Prix. Let's do this! Alright guys, so here we are in the session. Just have a look at the session info. 26 degrees ambient, 26 degrees track temperature, moderate usage, 50%. As always, thank you to VRS for giving me these conditions, basically. If we take a look at the setup, let's just add a quick note. Lovely stuff, that's much better. Let's apply that. This setup is obviously available to download from the Discord, link in the description down below. And without any further ado, let's learn the track. So, in all honesty, Lime Rock is probably one of my least favourite tracks. It is very technical, it's just quite dull and boring. You know, awkward double apex first turn, double apex second turn, which you need to nail, otherwise you're going to mess up turn number 3 that we've just gone through there. And then once you're out that first section, you're faced with the most technical part of the track, the chicane with the landmines or the sausages, whatever you want to call them. If you hit them, they can just rip a wheel right off and completely damage your car. So that's lovely to race through. And then we also have the last two turns, which are quite simple. Just a little lift through the second last turn, and if you nail the last one, you can take it flat. However, I wouldn't advise trying that on the outlap. The cold tyres just add a little bit more understeer. And then we're already starting our first flying lap. Looking around the number 2 board for our braking point for turn number 1. Trail braking is your friend. Probably could have held on to the brake a bit more. Okay, it's a note for next lap. Really diving into turn 2, a little bit too much. Probably need a wider entry for the optimal turn number 2. Obviously balancing that with turn number 1 is quite difficult, it's where the skill comes in. I think the less said, the better for me when I'm recording this live, going through that chicane. We'll need to go into detail about how to take that in the actual breakdown of the track. Lovely little lift for the second last, and then flat as we go through the transition. And just crank the wheel really. Try and avoid the curb on the inside. Just try and keep it smooth. And there's not much more to the track really.
1 minute 0.026.
Try and get on the power early and really hook your car on that curb on the inside on the exit of turn number 1. Again, I've gone too deep there. Need to brake a little bit more. Keep the car tighter through turn number 2. Brake just after this tyre mark or where the track straightens up. Again, that'll be highlighted in the guide. Down to second gear. And it's all about avoiding those sausage curves. You want to get as close to them as you possibly can, but not hit them. And that's it, there's only one line through there. Sort of missed the last turn there. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and concentrate on this lap. See what we can get. Hit the brakes a little bit too much. Okay. Okay, well what we'll do now is we'll just jump on forward to when I've actually nailed the lap.
59.716.
Alright, so as you can see, just a few laps later, we managed to get a 59.582. Not a perfect lap by any means, but it is quite solid, and we're just going to break it down now in more detail and see exactly how you do this track. So across the start-finish line, if I can get rid of the lap time there, we're in 5th gear, and we're coming up to turn number 1. Braking point for turn number 1, we're going to look out for this number 2 board. You're going to wait until your car is fully past the 2 board. Basically, the back of your car should be level with the 2 board when you brake. And you'll be braking down to 3rd gear, initially relatively hard, and you want to be in 3rd gear by the time you get close to this curb on the inside. As I mentioned previously, it's a double right-hander, so basically you're going to get close to the curb on entry, you're going to drift out wide a little bit, mid-corner, and then on exit you're going to close to that inside curb again. So as you approach the inside curb, you want to be in 3rd gear and you want to be trail braking. So let's just roll it forward here. Nice and slowly. Just get rid of that. So as you can see, we're braking very hard. I actually brake just before, or just on the number 2 board. That's my mistake. If we go to the chase cam and zoom out just a touch, you'll see I'm pretty much level with the 2 board whilst when I start braking. So already learning something myself. If we roll it forward, as you can see, braking quite hard initially, and then we're going to come off the brakes as we begin to get into 3rd gear. We drift up to this curb, as you can see, just glance it, and then we're going to start cranking on that wheel, as you can see. Trail braking again, and now at this point, this is all about your judgment. If you think you've overslowed the car, you're going to need to begin applying smidge of throttle, maybe 50% at most, to get your car through to the mid-corner. If you haven't slowed down enough, you're going to see your car start to drift out wide away from this curb on the inside. So you're going to need to trail brake more. Hold on to that brake for longer to bring the nose of the car round to hook up with the curb, the inside curb, on the second part of this turn. Roll it forward. As you can see, I'm off the brakes. I'm just coasting. I'm coasting. I've overslowed the touch. I can tell I'm too tight. Bit of power, just a bit of power. Get myself to the mid corner, and then we slam on the power. We go full throttle. We want to hook our car up on the inside with this curb. In this instance, I probably take a bit too much of that curb, if we're being perfectly honest. I'd say the narrow line that I take is too narrow. I'm nearly touching the grass on the inside. I'd say, in my opinion, take a little bit less curb than this, drift a little bit further out to the middle of the track, mid-corner, and get a better exit. However, all in all, it's obviously not too bad. And then we just exit full throttle. Lovely stuff. Let's watch that back full speed. So looking for that 2 board, braking hard, then transitioning to trail braking in 3rd gear, judging the corner, mid-corner we go full power and hook up with the curb and just keep it pinned. Now we're straight away heading into turn number 2. It's another double apex corner, this time swinging it round to the left. So the optimum line for this corner on its own is to line up on the right-hand side of the track. Obviously, we've just come out of a double right, which has thrown us out on the left-hand side of the track. So we need to get ourselves over to the right as quickly as possible. It's not always possible, especially if you're a lazy driver like me. I tend to just be very smooth, don't like any big jerky motions. So I tend to line up a bit more in the middle of the track than most people, I believe. I did on this lap really try to get my car over to the right-hand side of the track. However, if we watch, look how central I am. Look at this. It's not the worst thing in the world. It just means that I need to slow the car down more initially, and then I can get on the power earlier, if that makes sense. If I was out here, I would trail brake a lot more, just use the brake to get the car turning, whereas now, with this angle, I'm actually using the brake to slow the car down. It sounds like a terrible line, But in practice, I don't think it's all that bad, especially if you've taken into consideration the exit. If you're mindful about that, which is what you need to be with this turn, is nail the exit. So because again, it's a very technical section. If you're thrown straight into a flat out right-hander, so if you get the setup right, you will carry more speed through that right-hander. So yeah, it's just all a compromise. As I say, if you end up doing this and end up over here, over to the right a bit more here, then you're gonna have a shallower angle or shallower radius of a corner, so you can carry more speed into the corner. So just bear that in mind. Ramble over. So braking point essentially is just when we get close to the curb, get close to the white line. Probably a bit before. You can use these lines here, these skid marks, these tyre marks, whatever you want to call them. But as we begin to attack the grass where you would expect the curb to be, that's when we brake. And as you can see, I'm braking about 50%, which is a lot for this corner. If you take a shallower angle, you're going to be braking about 20% at most. If we roll it forward again, the goal is to get on the power very early and perhaps just clip the grass. And I mean just clip the grass with your inside tyres. That's the most important part. That's going to keep your car quite far over to the left-hand side of the track on the exit, which will open up this right-hander, which means from this point until the braking point before the horrible chicanes, we're going to be gaining time. So we may have lost some on under braking, but all this way we're going to be gaining time. So if we just watch this back, full speed, braking as we attack the grass, lining the car up. As soon as we see we can go full power, we know we're on the right line, which is just dipping the wheels in the grass. We're full power, and then we just keep it pinned. There's nothing much to say about this right-hander other than if you get the line wrong and you're gonna cut across this curb, you may need to be a bit weary of unsettling the car and actually losing the back end. So I'd suggest just coming off the throttle to about 70%. You need to accept the fact that you're going to gain time on turn in. However, you're going to lose time, a lot more time on corner exit. So again, you need to accept that. It's better to keep the car on the track facing the right direction than trying to force the car to do something it can't do. So again, bear that in mind, please. So just flat out through there, nice and smooth. Probably used a bit too much of the curb and even some of the grass there on exit. But now we're heading down into... It's basically this makes the entire lap. We have the white line here on the left of the track. As you can see, it's got a massive pointy bit, a massive kink in it. So it's heading off this direction, and then it straightens up, goes completely straight. That's where I brake. Or you do have this tyre mark. I would wait until your car is alongside this kink or the tyre mark until you brake. We're going to be braking hard and down into second gear. We're also going to need to try and brake in a straight line to maximise our braking. And we also want to use this curb on the entry. So you need to get your car pointing towards that curb as soon as you get to this kink. So you're in a straight line braking down to second gear. So here we go, braking hard. That's probably the hardest that I would brake. Down to third gear, down to second gear, and then we start trail braking as soon as we're in second gear, trying to get as close to this sausage curb as we can. Do we clip it? Do we clip it? We don't. Okay. However, wow, we get close to that curb. I'd say any closer, you're going to start losing time. Because you're going to clip it, you're going to unsettle the car. What I would also say is, if we roll it back, so I'm trail braking up to this point, and if we look at the steering wheel here, I've almost turned the wheel 90 degrees to the right. Coast for a few frames, sorry, and then I'm beginning to put the power on. And if we watch it slowly, you'll see how I don't go full power initially. We just try and ease it on until I know I'm past the sausage curb. Then we're full power, and it's just all about pinning it through this series of corners. If you've nailed the entry, you've nailed the entire turn basically. Slight little clip on that sausage curb, but we get away with it. And again, we push the limits on that one as well. Let's go back to cockpit cam and watch this back full speed. Braking point at the kink, hard down to second gear, turn in and trail brake, power on, nice and early but very smoothly, up to third gear straight away, and then we're up the hill. You're just going to try and take a straight line. You're going to hit fourth gear before we turn in for this second last turn. Braking points. We don't brake for this turn, we just lift. We just watch a lift just as we get close to the very extreme left of the track, and then we're back full power. We don't really want to hit this curb on the inside. If you do, it's not the end of the world. It's just going to unsettle the car a little bit. You might lose a kilometre an hour, lose a thousandth of a second, that sort of thing. But what we need to discuss is, where do we turn in? Now, in the VRS settings, track conditions, weather settings, we've got this lovely shadow here and a break in the shadow where there's this lovely sunny patch of road. That's what you can use. Obviously, there's no guarantee that's going to be there. So what I need to point out, if we can change to chase cam, and if we can go to a static view, I'm going to have to fast forward this because this is going to take a long ass time. Okay, so we finally got there. As you can see at the very bottom of the screen, we have the car. I haven't moved the car since we've cut to this. There you can see the lovely shadows and the sunny little break in the shadows. What you might also notice, if you look at the grass, the very edge of the grass where it goes to the road, the asphalt, just before the white line on the edge of the track, you'll see that there's some browning of the grass, and that is the top tip. When you see that browning on the grass, that's your key to turn in. You need to be lifting and turning at that point, and that's going to set you up nicely. If you do a sharp lift, you need to get on the power straight away. It'll just be a second, bang, bang. However, if you do a more casual, lazy lift, you'll go to like 20% throttle, hold it there for a second or two, and then ease it back on. A couple of different ways. One of them, the sharp lift, will give you an extra mile an hour, an extra kilometre an hour on exit. The other one, the shallow lift, will give you more entry speed. However, it might be more consistent for you. You need to have a play around and see what works for you. But what we'll do is we will watch that back, full speed from cockpit cam, watching the entry. So up to fourth, turn in, lift, power. It's just that simple, bang. And then we're being very smooth, heading down the hill into the last turn, which is, again, it's a very simple turn. We have the transition from the downhill to where it goes flat, just about here. You have all these tyre markings as well, so I'm sure you can pick one that you like the look of and use that as your marker. However, for me, it's just watching the car, and when it transitions, and that's when we just turn. We're aiming to glance this curb on the inside. We don't want to hit it too much. It can end up spinning the car if you hit it very early and take too much of it. However, if you keep it smooth and just glance the curb, you're going to have no problems at all, and you're just going to cruise around the turn, full throttle, all the way to the finish line. So if we play it through slowly, as you can see, as we transition, we just start turning, keep the car turning, just a little glance on the curb. If we go to the chase cam, I've made an error. If we go to the far chase cam, and we see here, we're just glancing the curb. We're not really on top of it at all. There's a massive bump in the curb, so we kind of want to be off the curb by then. As you can see, we are, which is fantastic. And then it's just flat out, nice and smooth, using the rumble strip on exit. So watching that back at full speed, through the transition, we turn, and it's just nice and flat. Nothing much more to it other than practicing. That's all you need to do. And then you're going to cross the line with a time of 59.582. So like a Muppet, I forgot to record the uninterrupted cockpit and chase cam lap, so I've had to do another lap. I'm going to include the data for that lap as well. It's a very, very similar time. I believe it's slightly faster by 0.02. But it's interesting to see where one lap loses time, one lap gains time. So we're going to watch that now. Enjoy.